America looks out of its depths. The GCC are being attacked. Saudi has been attacked. Pakistan is leading the negotiations. What will the world look like after the war on Iran is over? Assalamu alaikum. This is the way, only way up. So today we're going to talk about three lessons or estimations of what can we take away from this war in Iran, and what will be the impact in the future. So we're going to give three points to think about. So what's the first point we want to get into?
Yes, Akam Shani, I hope you're well. I think the first point is we're probably seeing the end of the American empire. And I say this from a number of perspectives. We've just had the American president, the leader of the free world, tweet being racist, literally acting like a madman. I mean, from everything they accuse the Iranians of being mad and apocalyptic, really we're seeing that from Washington. So there was a time, America was the peacemaker. America maintained the peace. America was considered a force for good. America would make sure any wars didn't spiral out of control. What you're getting from America now, you're talking, what you're getting is we're going to bomb your petrochemical industry, we're going to bomb your bridges, we're going to bomb your universities, we're going to bomb your schools. How dare you defend yourself? Yeah. And, even talk of, these petrochemical industries, these nuclear reactors going to have significant a fallout. So, America's acting like the madman. And, these are not signs of a leader. These are not signs of a stabilizing force. These are not signs of someone who does good for the world. These are the sort of things where you'd remove a ruler for being like this. And what seems to have happened really is Trump's just going mad. Iran's not rolling over. Iran's not turning into another Venezuela. And he's out of his depth. He has no idea how to deal with this. And the only option he can come up with, or is being told, is more and more escalation. And the reason why we're talking about more escalation is because the first escalation failed. So surely you think you wouldn't do the same thing again. So that's the first lesson here. What you're witnessing, these are all the signs of when you're losing a war and you're losing the plot, and these are not good for your empire.
Okay, I just want to come back on that and my thoughts on that. I think America, I think it's definitely a new politics the way they're doing it. I think in terms of their hegemony, in terms of their brutality, in terms of how they've harmed the world, is as before. What they did in Iraq, what they did in Syria, what they did in Afghanistan was brutal, and in Gaza. I think from what I'm seeing, the big difference is the way the politics is played out, the way it's presented to the world, or the way it's given in the media. There's no more politics behind the scenes. All this would happen behind closed doors, and in front of the cameras, it would be all, nice words, a polished presentation, polished speaking, talking about values and institutions. Where behind the scenes there was huge amount of killings and sufferings. So I think Trump's just brought the behind the scenes politics in front of the camera. I mean, I'm sure with Iraq, they had many obstacles, even more than the Iran obstacles, and but they kept it behind closed doors and just carried on as though to say, yeah, we're on track with our targets and business as usual. So I think America, its hegemony, its brutality, unfortunately, will continue, and the way it's presented and given to the world, that's changed for good now. I don't think there's no going back to that. And what would be your second point and second lesson from this war in Iran?
Okay, the second point. Oh man, what were the 3 points we discussed, bro? Just remind me.
Prices, petrol prices, Strait of Hormuz.
Oh yes, straight to the horse. Yes. Yeah, the second point is look, there was an era where America with the biggest military, with the most capability, it could roll over any other country, any other army. But we saw with Iraq and Afghanistan that that's just not the case anymore. What you now find is just having drones, having missiles, or utilizing your strategic capabilities, you can actually not just hold America to ransom, but defeat them. And in Afghanistan, we saw this through the insurgency against America. And we're seeing it again now as Iran has done by closing the Straits of Hormuz. Now, the ramification of this is really, really huge. So, 18 million barrels of oil a day are being taken offline. So there's 100 million barrels produced a day, which the world needs, which the Far East needs, which Europe needs, which Africa needs. So for a month now, around 80 millions of barrels of oil is not getting to the market. And because it's been a month now, the last oil that left in tankers from the Straits of Hormuz, they are already in our pumps in Asia and in Europe. So from now on, you're going to see a shortage of oil. So this lever is one of the tools Iran is using to respond to America. And this is why I think Trump is going mad, because he doesn't really know how to deal with this. He's out of his league. And he just thinks by escalating, he can do it. And this brings us back to a broader point that across the Muslim world, our rulers have actually got strategic options, but they never use them. And for once a country has used their strategic tools wisely, and what they've done is they've brought America to its knees. So everything America's doing now of more and more bombings, it's just making things worse. So you're seeing now in Japan, in potentially China, and in Europe now, there's talk of 4-day weeks. There's talks of rationing. They're going to have to adjust their energy use, and we live in industrial societies where you need energy. So I think this is a good lesson to learn that, weaker powers doesn't mean a stronger power can just roll over them. We saw how the Taliban effectively defeated America in the long run. We saw how the insurgency in Iraq bled America dry, and we're seeing it here now as well. And so that just means the global order, the global balance of power is now changing. America can't just roll over other countries. In fact, other countries are utilizing what tools they have in order to hold America to ransom. So I think eventually, when Trump realizes that force isn't going to work, he's going to be forced to negotiate. And in those negotiations, America will not have the upper hand. Iran will have the upper hand. And that really means we're at the dawn of a change in the global order. We're at the dawn where global power is potentially going to change.
Yeah, and I think we were talking before the recording about how the Strait of Hormuz was known for decades in American think tanks and policy papers. That is a vulnerable source; it can be used, and there's many choke points across the Muslim world, across the lands. Um, you've got the Suez Canal, you've got the Red Sea, you've got the Indian Ocean. So there's a lot of choke points. And what gets me is if this is known, this is not new military information or strategic information, is what would it take the leaders or the nation to take this step forward to utilize it? And until it doesn't have a clear idea of what it is about, what is the Ummah about, what is it here for, what is it doing on this earth, where are we going as a nation, as an Ummah, until then there will be very little need to do anything. It'll all be just a case of pragmatism, appeasing the world leaders, subduing yourself under international institutions, under international concepts. Why? Because you have no mind of your own to direct how am I, why am how I'm going to utilize this for a idea or a view that I have. And until the leadership and the Ummah doesn't galvanize around the idea of being a witness for mankind, of guiding mankind, saving humanity from the problems and issues that it has, and it doesn't make that its core principles, then all this strategic information is going to be wasted away. All these choke points will be wasted away. All the oil and what it means will be wasted away. And I think that's probably the missing ingredient for the ummah and for a leadership. They have to have a ideology. Once Russia had an ideology, they sent a satellite to the moon before any other country in the world did. Once Britain and America and the West had the ideology, they dominated the world, wrongly or rightly, but they did it. So until the ummah and the Muslims don't adopt some clear thoughts, then it's going to be difficult to see how they're going to utilize this in a way that's going to be beneficial for mankind. And your third point, what would be the third point, a lesson that we can learn from this Iran war?
Okay, so the third point, and probably one of the most critical, is the Gulf states. They are now in a pickle. These artificial countries were created by Britain in the 70s, And these countries that are really cities and towns, you got Kuwait, you got Bahrain, you got Qatar, you got the UAE, and you got Oman, and then Saudi is usually included as well. There was a arrangement they had with America. So these countries decided they're going to price their oil in dollars. So they get dollars for payment for all the oil they sell. And that's 60% of the world's oil is in that region. So all those dollars, there's an agreement they had with America that what they would do is they would invest them in America. They would also buy military equipment from America. And in return, America would guarantee their security. Now, in the last month, this has all been tested and it's unraveling. So Iran started firing missiles at American bases in the region, American bases that are in these countries. They started targeting the radar systems, and America's nowhere to be seen. In fact, there was the Saudi, or I think the Qatari official, who lambasted America for saying, "You seem to be more interested in defending Israel, who only takes money from you, rather than our countries who actually invest in your country." So the Gulf states now have been shown that the security guarantee turned out to be absolutely nothing in the end. So they need to reevaluate their relationship with America. They need to reevaluate why they're even pricing their oil in dollars when it's actually had no tangible benefit for them. America left them high and dry in their time of need. And this has a knock on effect. If America is struggling to defeat Iran and win the war, if these countries abandon the petrodollar, that leads to the collapse of the dollar as a global currency. And America's currency being a global currency is how they're able to sanction countries. They sanction countries by making it illegal for people to trade with that country in dollars. It means that these countries will stop investing in America because they won't even have their oil wealth in dollars anymore. So that has an impact on America. And so this is quite a unique moment. All the supply lines that make America into an empire, there are now question marks over them. America's military strength, there's a question mark over it. America's technological strength, there's a question mark over it. The dollar being the global reserve currency, that has now got a question mark over it as well. And probably the key lesson from this is, why did the Muslim rulers provide a leg up to the American empire? If they were pragmatic and they believed this would serve them, well, that's proven to be wrong. And if you are the lifeline for the American empire, then why on earth don't you establish your own empire? Why are you funding somebody else's empire? Why don't you become the empire yourself? You've got the wealth. And unfortunately, this is what these leaders have been doing. Rather than themselves being an empire, rather than themselves being a global power, they've actually been funding someone else to do that all this time. This is how short range and how dependent their thinking is. But all of this now is unraveling.
Yeah, I think from the GCC, I think they played the game of they've been very close to Britain since their birth. Britain was their mother, and they've been close to their mother. But they've been playing a game with America in terms of an open game. Everyone knew have the military bases there, price the gas and oil in dollars, invest in their countries. But ultimately, your source code is with Britain, and I think after this, maybe they may reevaluate their source code of Britain. What can Britain give them? And I think that's the big question. Throughout this whole episode, what could have Britain given them? Nothing. It wasn't able to do anything for them. It couldn't do anything for them. And I think now, I think America will be pressurizing the GCC to come under fully under the American wing, American influence, and American guidance. And unfortunately, we'll have another fake state in the Muslim world that's being dominated by America, from one superpower to another superpower. And that's the shame of what we're seeing here. That it's just a game between the powers of Britain and America and Europe. So Jazakallah khair for listening. Leave your feedback below, leave your comments. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.